Here's what's happening, why it matters, and what most people are missing. On February 28, 2026, the US and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran. Iran's supreme leader Khamenei was killed. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical oil shipping lanes on the planet, was closed. About 20% of the world's oil supply moves through that strait. Gas prices in the U.S. shot up more than 50% in 3 months, hitting a national average of $4.51 a gallon by late May. A temporary ceasefire was reached in April. But the war wasn't settled. The big questions, Iran's nuclear program, its enriched uranium stockpile, the Strait, were still on the table. Using intermediaries including Pakistan and Oman, the U.S. and Iran began working toward a 60-day memorandum of understanding. Extend the ceasefire, reopen the Strait, allow Iran to sell oil, begin formal nuclear talks. That is the deal currently on the table. As of June 2, 2026, it is not signed, but it is close. Negotiators reached a draft last week. Trump reviewed it and sent it back with changes. He wants stronger language on Iran's enriched uranium, specifically how and when the U.S. gets control of the material. He went on Truth Social at 1 a.m. to say Iran really wants to make a deal, which tells you something about where his head is at. Then things got messy on June 1st. Iran's state media announced Tehran was suspending talks because Israel threatened to strike Hezbollah targets in Beirut. Trump called Netanyahu directly. Multiple sources described the call as heated. Trump pressed the Israeli prime minister to stand down. A ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah was announced shortly after, and Iran came back to the table. Today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio testified before Congress for the first time since the war began. He told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that Iran has agreed to discuss aspects of its nuclear program it refused to even acknowledge a year ago. A deal, he said, could come today, tomorrow, or next week, but he was careful. No guarantees. Call to action. This story is moving fast. If you want to stay ahead of it, subscribe and hit the notification bell right now. We'll have the next update the moment something breaks. Now here's the part of this story worth paying attention to. Israel and the U.S. started this war as partners. 3 months later, the negotiations to end it have been conducted with Israel almost entirely excluded. No seat at the table. Whatever agreement gets signed, Israel will be bound by it without having shaped it. Netanyahu has avoided criticizing Trump publicly. Behind closed doors, Israeli sources say he has acknowledged he has limited leverage over the outcome. He reportedly pushed Trump repeatedly to resume full military operations, arguing sustained pressure could still collapse the Iranian regime. The White House moved in the opposite direction. Trump said something publicly that no U.S. president has ever said about an Israeli leader, that Netanyahu will do whatever I want him to do on Iran. That one sentence captures the current dynamic better than anything else. My opinion, here is my honest opinion, and I've held this view for a long time. The United States has exactly 2 real options with Iran: full disengagement or full commitment to resolving the nuclear question once and for all. There is no sustainable middle ground. A ceasefire that kicks the nuclear issue 60 days down the road is not a resolution. It's a pause, and pauses end. If America steps back now without finishing what it started on the nuclear front, I don't think we go back. Not anytime soon. The political will fades, the urgency disappears, and Washington moves on to the next crisis. The only thing that forces a return to this issue is electoral pressure. And based on the current cycle, that means we're looking at sometime around the next presidential election, either just before candidates need a foreign policy win, or just after a new administration decides it needs to make its mark. That's not a prediction anyone wants to make out loud. But it's the reality. This ceasefire deal, as welcome as it is, doesn't resolve the nuclear question. It delays it. And if we walk away from this moment without a definitive answer on Iran's nuclear program, we will spend the next few years pretending the problem went away, right up until it didn't. This is the window. The question is whether anyone in Washington is willing to use it. Trump says a deal is coming within the week. Iran is still pushing back on key terms, and Israel, for the first time in this conflict, is on the outside looking in. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.